You are watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. It's time to see what's making the headlines with the political commentator Adam Boulton and the former Conservative Special Advisor Salma Shah. They'll be with us from now until just before midnight. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now. Well, the Telegraph leads on the military's plan to invest £1 billion into new high-tech anti-espionage systems to target hostile states. Its headline, Army hackers take on Putin. The Guardian reports on the staggering rise of complaints over poor housing conditions, which are more than 5 times higher than they were 5 years ago. The Eye says that the BBC are letting off over 75s who failed to pay their TV licence fee. The Metro reports that Thames Water has been fined £123 million for financial mismanagement and breaches of pollution standards, and told by the regulator Ofwat that it mustn't make up its losses by increasing customers' bills. The Star calls Thames Water's bosses Britain's biggest sewer rats. The FT speaks to World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab, who claims that at one point European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde was in negotiations to leave her job early and join his organisation instead. And The Express thanks its readers for raising money to allow D-Day veterans to go back to Normandy. Well, let's get the thoughts now of Adam and Salma to take us through the papers this evening. Welcome to both of you. Let's start with the Metro and Thames Water. This fine, £123 million. Adam?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite astonishing fine. It's the biggest fine ever. It's been brought in by the water regulator Ofwat on 2 grounds. One, for the discharges of sewage from overflow sites, including 200, which apparently the Thames Water was unaware that it actually had emitting stuff. But there are also fines for the financial management of the company because, guess what? It's taken out more than 100 million in bonuses for its staff at a time when it wasn't performing sufficiently well economically to justify that. And so I think there must be enormous pressure now on Chris Weston, the chief executive, who appeared before a select committee in the House of Commons and basically said things that are pretty questionable whether he will go. But underlying this all is everyone knows there's a massive problem in the water industry, and it's pretty clear that the government and the Treasury don't want to assume responsibility by fully privatising these companies.
Salma, and the public will be none too pleased at these headlines. Well, perhaps not at the amount of the fine, but bills went up 31% in April amidst all of this.
Well, yeah, exactly. There's going to have to be some give somewhere, and that is going to show on water bills. And I think the issue here is going to be Thames Water is still finding it difficult to find investors to kind of get back on an even keel. I think this has implications for other water companies who might not be in the same situation as Thames Water, but will apply pressure in terms of the investment that might be available to them. And frankly, as Adam says, there is sort of a political issue here. It's not necessarily about nationalisation versus privatisation, but with this, record fine, one might ask the question as to what Ofwat has been doing and whether actually the regulatory framework and indeed the boards of these businesses were effective in terms of managing the governance around the way that dividends were paid or the way that they were discharging their duty around water safety.
And this character, Chris Weston, who's depicted on the front of the Star, Britain's biggest sewer rat, riding an actual rat, he did say, when he spoke to MPs, that if you fine us too much, we're not going to be able to get investors coming in. And KKR, the investment company, has apparently been in talks to take over. So it would seem, if this is a record-breaking fine, it may actually obstruct the ability of Thames Water to bring in extra investment, which clearly it needs.
And Chris Weston, one of the people that received one of the highest bonuses, £1,000 bonus last year. Just on that point of whether the cost will be relayed to customers, Ofwat are actually saying that these losses mustn't result in increasing customer bills.
Oh, I think the issue with that is, whilst Ofwat can say that, there is going to be a situation for investors that are coming in that are going to try and understand where they actually recoup any investment. And unless water bills go up, there's going to be even less chance that you've got people who are going to take the risk with the capital. So it's not just the KKRs who are private equity businesses. There are also potentially pension funds that need to have a return because they are effectively helping individuals get through their retirement. So there is a lot of difficulty around the financing of this. But, I mean, I think we can all safely say it's a mess and there are bigger questions to answer.
And what's more, it has already been agreed that water bills are going to go up. So, you know, at what point do you use that money to pay a fine rather than perhaps to do investments that you might have set up? It's very... I don't quite see how you can kind of enforce this.
Let's move on to the Telegraph. Salma, take us into this story. The British military to spend more than £1 billion on artificial intelligence and a hacking attack team. This coming from the Defence Secretary to target hostile states such as Russia.
Well, I mean, it sounds sort of fantastical if you read the details of it. And I want to read out the title of this new cyber unit that's being created by the MOD, the Cyber and Electromagnetic Command Centre, which sounds like it's straight out of a Bond movie. The point of this is that there is a new strategic review that is happening within the MOD. Periodically, you have these strategic reviews to think about what your threat picture is and how you deploy the resources of the military. And what John Healey says, the Defence Secretary, is that we've had lots of different people, lots of different agencies, the National Cyber Security Centre and the MOD, trying to repel cyber threats from hostile state actors that have been attacking various government cyber infrastructure. And this is about putting £1 billion worth of investment to ensure that we have the right capabilities. I think one of the reasons this is doubly important is that it's not just about what's happening to government assets and digital assets. We've already seen from cyber attacks, you know, against Marks and Spencers, against Harrods, against retailers and other businesses that are going to be affected, that this is going to become a much bigger issue. And I think we all need to take it more seriously.
This is an advance leak ahead of Monday, because Monday we're expecting we're going to get the security review that has been conducted by Lord Robertson and Fiona Hill. That is due to be published by the government. And it's clear in that they are going to say that, you know, traditional defence is changing, that we've now got drones, we've now got cyber attacks. So money's going to have to go to that rather than necessarily what we might traditionally think of, troop numbers and weapons and tanks. So I think this is, as it were, a positive presentation ahead of the announcement of the Defence Review, which certainly won't satisfy the hard hats, if I can put it that way, in the defence establishment, who just think there needs to be a lot more spending on conventional as well as on more modern scientific...
But it's good media management to surface this, because the reality is there is a difference within the hard hats and the top brass, however you want to term them, in the military, about the future of war. You're exactly right. It's how are we actually going to... Where is the front line going to be? Is it... I mean, we've obviously got a lot of conflict in the world at the moment, but in the future of warfare, is that going to be about troop numbers and deploying in a physical sense, or do we have to protect ourselves in the digital realm?
Well, John Healey quoted as saying that the keyboard has become a weapon of war, so pointing to the future and future priorities.
That, haven't we, in Ukraine with all the control of drones?
Absolutely. Let's turn to The Guardian and this story. The Housing Ombudsman has warned that simmering anger at poor housing conditions could boil over into social tension. This comes after his office recording a 474% increase in complaints about substandard living conditions. This is since 2019 to 2020.
Yeah, I mean, this is really interesting, and it's a really important call-out, I think, from The Guardian, because, I mean, I used to do housing policy in government, And I think one of the things that we've seen is that he's referencing social housing, but that doesn't necessarily mean council housing in the way that people would understand it. This is about affordable accommodation, you know, things that are delivered perhaps by councils, perhaps by housing associations. And one of the difficulties that housing associations have had is that they've had to find money in their current budgets to remediate poor conditions in houses. So the story itself references a WARBS law, if you recall, that was brought in because of black mould that killed a 2-year-old boy. So this is really substandard poor conditions. I think one of the things that we have to be really mindful of here as well is that if you're looking at the complaint number going up and housing associations or whoever's delivering this housing not being able to react to that quickly enough, I can understand why the Housing Ombudsman is talking about that becoming a point of social tension. And if you put that against the backdrop of the Labour government committing itself to building 1.5 million homes, you can really appreciate the pressure that's happening in the housing sector right now.
Adam, a 474% increase is astonishing.
No,
I thought it was a misprint at first.
It's absolutely massive. And, of course, there have been, you mentioned one of them, but there have been a number of stories now about social housing and substandard stuff, including, certainly in one case, social housing that belonged to a newly elected Labour MP. So, you know, it is a real issue, and I think the whole issue of social housing is a massive one because, of course, you know, right to buy and the purchases of council houses was designed to create a property-owning democracy, but it's becoming increasingly apparent there are a lot of people who will never have the money to become property owners themselves, and so, you know, how much of a component of the 1.5 million houses that get built is going to be social housing, and then who's going to get access to them. You know, people pointing out that it's projected that there'll be more immigrants coming in that period, more than 1.5 million. So will those houses go to the people who are who are already here, if you like, desperate for a home, or other people? I mean, it's going to become a very, very key issue. OK, Adam and Salma, thank you very much for the moment. Coming up, Jeremy Corbyn's former right-hand man calls for a leadership challenge to Sir Keir Starmer, but is now the right time? We'll discuss that next.
We're rolling.
Welcome to the world.
Our new podcast, starting now. It's very exciting. Every week, we'll be reporting from the world's trouble spots.
We get to hold those in positions of power accountable, and we get to ask the questions that the audience, the listeners, want to know about.
And that's why it is so important that people tune in, come along for the road, come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling. War, unrest, revolutions.
It's not his country, it's ours.
They have succeeded for the first time in their country's history in removing a leader from power. No freedom! Sky News, the full story first. There was fighting here, but there's clearly now a lull, and they're using it to bring up more ammunition. This is a mass exodus in which Russia is hemorrhaging some of its brightest and its best. According to the local weather channel, there have been more than 2,500 lightning strikes and flash flooding, all on top of this week's lethal tornado. What stays with you most in this job is some of the people you meet. What is your worst fear about what the Russians want to do to the children?
They're just boosting demographics by stealing young people.
Would you like to take the opportunity, Mr. President, on Sky News to invite Barack Obama to come here? Mr. Trump, are you running for president? Can you confirm it?
We're going to take a look, a very serious look.
On that day, we saw your fighters killing women, killing children. Was that a mistake? Did you go too far? You couldn't control your fighters? The full force of the state is being used to crush any protest. Free wherever you get your news. This half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in. Another alarm. The mood here is jittery and nervous. We're seeing the world get more and more divided, and it's our job to try to make sense of it all.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war. This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away.
So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
Jubilation in the streets, while some emotional.
This is a political victory for Prime Minister Modi and his Hindu Nationalist Party.
I'm Neville Lazarus, and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi. Companies like these are helping India in its trajectory to be a serious player in space exploration. Sky News, get the full story first.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. Still with me, Adam Boulton and Salma Shah. Let's take a look at the front page of The Guardian. And this story regarding John McDonald calling for a grassroots leadership challenge to the Labour administration. Salma.
Yeah, so this is, you know, if you recall, John McDonald was a real kind of old-time lefty Labour politician, no longer actually in the Labour Party, had the whip withdrawn. And, you know, there was this brief period where he was the shadow chancellor and, you know, he actually brought some of his radical thinking onto the front benches. So I would say John McDonnell calling for a challenge to the leader of the Labour Party has returned him somewhat to his old form in politics. But this is a sort of anger that's been brought about as a consequence of, you know, policies that have been difficult, especially around benefits and the two-child benefit cap. So I don't know how, we were just discussing this earlier, we don't know how they might prompt a challenge to the Labour leadership, but it is very much true to form that John McDonnell is calling for a decapitation of the Labour leader.
Yes, he's describing Starmer's government as callous and politically incompetent.
I mean, The Guardian has been running a bit of a campaign. The Guardian, of course, one of the few Labour-supporting papers, has been running a bit of a campaign on this issue of the two-child benefit. It had Gordon Brown writing at length about child poverty. And so this looks like, to me, a sort of political correspondence being told to find a follow-up. But it is a bit weak when you've got someone who's actually suspended from the party and making this call. And one of the interesting things is I think it just about will ruin his chances of ever getting back into the Labour Party, which, of course, he needs if he wants to stand as a Labour candidate next time round. And that may be one of the reasons why he's decided to write this, because he's given up, because some of the people who voted against the party have actually been brought back in, but John McDonnell has stayed on the outside. And also Jeremy Corbyn, who was very much his partner, if you like, at the top of the Labour Party. Jeremy Corbyn is also still suspended from the Labour Party, and he is also, I understand, going to go vociferous next week on the subject of Gaza in particular. So, you know, the old lefties are beginning to raise the flag again.
They're still around, alive and kicking. Let's turn to the Metro, and this is a follow-up on the proposal by London's Mayor Sadiq Khan to decriminalise cannabis. We have now the response from the Met Police Chief, Smart Rowley, in which he's saying that it's unworkable. Salma.
Yes, so this is interesting because, of course, the thing that's been most fascinating about it is that, obviously, the Mayor of London, who for a long time has been the most senior Labour politician in the UK, until Labour swept to power last summer, has been able to sort of set his own policy agenda. But now that he's called for the decriminalisation of...
Possession.
marijuana, it's interesting how the Labour government, the Labour cabinet, who were all out on media today, immediately refuted this. So it's not something that seems to be carrying in terms of, being able to have a policy change, because he himself can't do it by himself. It would have to be something that was legislated for. And the fact that the police chief, Sir Mark Rowley, who essentially works hand in glove with the Mayor of London, is also saying that it's unworkable, suggests that perhaps this isn't something that is particularly thought through, that it's something that the Mayor of London is doing because he wants to burnish his credentials, or he's trying to position himself in some way, because any avenue that he's got seems to be shut down pretty rapidly.
Adam, Angela Rayner, when asked if she'd taken drugs, said that she'd taken paracetamol and codeine.
Right, well, I remember a long time ago asking Mo Merlin if she'd taken drugs, and she said yes, and I inhaled, and that was on Sky News. That made a story. I mean, I have to say, I mean, Mark Rowley, in another context to do with releases from prison, has basically said, look, we don't have the resources to deal with this stuff. So at one level, you might have thought, not having to police low-level possession of cannabis might be quite attractive, but he's clearly made it not the case. I also think, frankly, that Lord Falconer's report is a bit of a straddle. I mean, I think the issue with cannabis is either you legalise it and regulate it, as they have done in many states in the United States, for example, or you continue criminalising it. But, Lord Falconer's got a sort of problem of saying, well, it's OK to have it, but it's, anyone who sells it to you is committing a crime, which just seems to be a bit odd to me.
Yeah, quite complex to navigate. Adam and Salman, thank you very much for the moment. We're going to take a look at the weather for you now.
Breathtaking views with clear skies ahead. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, the next few days will bring showers or longer spells of rain, but there'll be some drier interludes, especially in the south. Expect a mild, gloomy and damp start tomorrow, but northern and central Britain will see more prolonged rain, locally heavy. That rain will clear away through the morning, but it'll stay rather grey with further showery outbreaks. Southern Britain, especially central and southern England, will have the best chance of staying dry, with some brightness developing by lunchtime. It'll be fairly warm, but quite windy. Northern England and the south of Ireland will have a dull and damp afternoon.
Breathtaking views with clear skies ahead. Qatar Airways sponsors the weather.
Coming up next on Sky News at 11, more questions over security at the Liverpool Victory Parade as police are given extra time to question a man arrested.